Welcome to this special edition of the Journal Editorial Report as we look back on the highs and the lows of 2019. I am Paul Gigot, and from the Mueller report to the impeachment probe, we begin with the investigations into President Trump, which kicked into high gear this year as Democrats took control of the House. So what did we learn about the president and those investigating him, and which side emerged stronger? Let's ask Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger and columnists Kim Strassel, Bill McGurn, and Mary Anastasia O'Grady. Kim, I want to start out with you. And when we think about impeachment, I'm beginning to think in retrospect that it was probably inevitable. We were going to get impeachment one way or another from the Democrats, who were, really intent on it. And even after the Mueller report failed, they were going to look for something else. What do you think?
Well, and that was really the key, was when the Mueller report came over. I think some of us out there, we'd waited more than 2 years, and we thought, okay, now we have an answer. It's time to put this behind it. But no, the minute it came out, they doubled down. They drilled in on the obstruction piece of his report, even though the Justice Department said that this was not something that could go forward. And it was pretty clear at that moment that this was going to happen one way or another, and it was just a question of their finding the right issue to hang it on.
Yeah, so, I mean, anybody disagree with that they were going to impeach him for jaywalking if they had to? I mean, is that what?
Yeah, they were calling for impeachment barely after he was taking the oath of office. So I think this is right. And Mrs. Pelosi tried to resist it. But the point is, this is what the bulk of her party wanted. When you looked at those polls,
that's my point,
and you broke it down, it's something like 90%. They were all agreed on that. Mrs. Pelosi was the outlier in those polls.
Go ahead, Mary.
Well, the other thing about the Mueller report that's amazing is how he basically decided to ignore the Steele report and the importance of Christopher Steele's report. He's a former British spy who, was basically hired to try to find dirt on Donald Trump.
By the Democrats.
Yeah, and Mueller just didn't go into that. And I think there's something we learn more about, not just about Mueller, but if you look at all of this, you see that the Washington establishment was happy to cover up for each other, all in the interests of basically damaging Donald Trump.
Well, let's talk about the Washington establishment.
Yeah,
I mean, people talk all the time about how disruptive our politics is, how tense it is, it's worn them down, it's polarizing. Donald Trump did not create the Russian collusion narrative, right?
Right.
He talks all the time about witch hunts. He's got a point. I mean, if you extracted this stuff, what you would have, I think, is a more or less normal presidency. Trump himself would never be a normal president, but we would be arguing about normal things like immigration and other Trump policies. Instead, we have spent the year, because of the Democrats' insistence, on this zero-sum collusion narrative, which has been very destructive to our politics.
I take all that, but do you put any blame a little bit on Trump for not repudiating Putin as much and clearly as he should for his intervention in 2016?
He could have made that clearer for sure. I mean, it was a very sort of troubling aspect of the election campaign. But as he often says, they've imposed more sanctions on the Russians than any previous administration. And so it's been kind of a wash.
I agree with Dan. I just did. It wouldn't have made any difference. And how do we know? No, and I mean that seriously. How do we know? Because they got the Mueller report and they still stick to things. You look at when Bob Mueller...
They still are accusing him of collusion.
Of collusion. When Bob Mueller came in, there was enough evidence that this was going nowhere, and yet he continued this investigation. The whole thing from the beginning is finding out that the Steele stuff was not credible, and they went with it anyway, so I don't think it would have made any difference.
And let's not forget the Inspector General's report, which just came out more recently, because that had evidence of, the FBI hiding exculpatory evidence. I mean, that is really a scandal, and it's terrifying for, I think, American citizens. I mean, those of us who believe in civil liberties, which should be the bulk of Washington. Yeah. I mean, how come there's just sort of a yawn? And part of that is because of the way the press, most of the press has been spinning it, which is that Trump is the problem.
Kim, we learned, I think, it's fair to say that the abuses of the FBI and all of this were worse than anything that we learned about Donald Trump and Russia.
Oh, absolutely. This IG report has been absolutely devastating to the FBI. And we already had reports come out. I mean, people forget short memories, but we've now had 3 reports about Jim Comey, the former FBI director, and his tenure. The first one, which dealt with his Hillary Clinton probe, accused him of being insubordinate to superiors. We've had one about his leak of his memo to the press about his conversations with the president, which pointed out it was dangerous, reckless behavior. And now we have this IG report about the FBI playing fast and loose with the FISA court. You know, this really does call into many Americans' minds whether or not they can trust the FBI at all. There's been a huge institutional damage, again, all because they were going after Trump, but it's the FBI who comes out looking very poor here.
And the 2 years spent pursuing the collusion narrative and asserting it, notwithstanding the lack of evidence, I think really has hurt the attempt to now impeach on Ukraine, because a lot of the public says, oh, wait a minute, we've heard all this before, and we can't trust these people because they pushed falsehoods on us before.
Yeah, and I think the Democrats have done some damage to themselves with this. They could be running against, in the election year, Trump's personality and his policies. That would be legitimate. But they've elevated it now to this so-called constitutional crisis, which I think is really a bridge too far for a lot of voters who may default to saying it was an indefensible impeachment project.
All right, thank you all.